Welcome to the SVG-TV news for Friday, August 25th. With the details tonight, I am Khalil Kato. Today, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves addressed the protocolary meeting of the Permanent Council of the Organization of American States in Washington. He addressed the meeting on the topic, a time of repair, beyond COVID, economic dislocation, climate emergency, and global turmoil, fresh hope for Latin America and the Caribbean. Outlining the challenges brought by the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, economic hardship brought on by the war between Russia and the Ukraine to countries in the region and around the globe, Prime Minister Gonsalves said in the midst of it all, the dislocations, disasters, suffering and setbacks in the Americas, there is a hopefulness and the determination of the populations to turn the setbacks into advances to recover and rebuild.
In short, to respair, that is, to embrace fresh hope for a recovery and a better condition of life from the condition of dislocations, disruptions, uncertainties, despondency, and despair. In this quest to respair, to embrace fresh hope, goes to our existential beings. It encompasses too faith and love, the trilogy of which are resident in our people's consciousness as core essences of our Judeo-Christian socialization and the resolute experiences of our America, shaped by a solidarity which emerges from the genius of our people. This genius of our people flows from a fluid space in their consciousness, conditioned by the fever of our history, awash with possibilities beyond the ordinary, the regular, the normal, the usual. It is this existential spirit and yearning from which we must draw individually and collectively. In our repairing, it is that which encompasses a social individualism and solidarity beyond and in contrast to a limiting atomized individualism of an unfettered market economy and a dog-eat-dog survival of the fittest. A society grounded in naked individualism is unsustainable. At a time of grave challenge which our America faces today, it is necessary and desirable to foster our people's instinctive sense of social solidarity, goodness and good neighborliness in national unity, not ugly divisiveness, craven dishonesty and partisan self-interest in quest of an illusory power.
Noting that our America has to be re-energized in the pursuit of a deepening of regional reintegration and international solidarity steeped in multilateralism and international law. Prime Minister Gonsalves made it clear at the meeting that the Community of Latin America and Caribbean States, CELAC, of which SVG currently holds the pro-temporary presidency, was never designed as an alternative for the OAS, as both have different mandates, and that CELAC is an appropriate vehicle to engage the USA on a range of matters, touching and concerning the material and political interest of both CELAC and the USA.
Indeed, I'm using this forum to indicate something publicly which I've done privately for a conversation between CELAC and the United States of America. Indeed, when at the Summit of the America, certain matters were not able to be discussed in a manner in which they ought to have been discussed, consequent upon the exclusion of three countries in our hemispheric family, that is to say Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. And consequently, some other countries either didn't attend or their leaders did not attend. Let's take something of great importance to CELAC and also to the United States of America. Migration. How are you going to discuss migration at any gathering without talking to Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Mexico, Honduras? We have to be mature and reflective on these questions. That's one. But there are others which we can talk about. Similarly, CELAC ought to have an encounter between itself and Canada. CELAC too is the preferred mechanism for our America to develop joinders and linkages with the European Union, as was demonstrated recently in July 2023 at the EU CELAC summit in Brussels. In September 2023, on the margins of the United Nations General Assembly, CELAC has planned interfaces with the African Union and India.
Prime Minister Gonzalez also used the opportunity to address the action taken by host country, the USA, to leave out Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua from the Summit of the Americas last year. He also called for urgent reform of some of the global institutions, including the United Nations, the World Bank, and International Monetary Fund, the IMF.
It is high time that a great power like the USA exorcise its nightmarish ghosts from the 20th century, which still populate the minds of too many leaders in Washington. In a world so racked by awesome existential challenges, it is infantile to persist with these exclusionary vanities. Certainly it is not mature, in my judgment. Engagements without preconditions and without unilateral sanctions or impositions are sensible, practical paths for mature leaders of understanding and wisdom to pursue in the interest of peace, security, and prosperity. On this bundle of matters, there's a fierce urgency of now. The countries of our America and North America are part and parcel of the network of global institutions, including the United Nations and its specialized agencies, and the international financial institutions of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. The UN, the World Bank, and the IMF are urgently in need of meaningful reform in order to better serve our America and other emerging and developing countries. It is well near universally accepted that these institutions were fashioned in the world of the immediate post-Second World War period, vastly different from the one that exists today. These global institutions must be re-engineered and transformed to serve humanity much better than they currently do.
Fisherfolk in the country are being encouraged to get on board with the fleet expansion program. On radio this week, Minister responsible for fisheries, Saboto Caesar, announced that a fisherman from Bequia has secured a tuna longline vessel through funding under the program by the partnering financial institution, the Kingstown Cooperative Credit Union. Minister Caesar noted that with this latest development, he anticipates a flood of applications under the fleet expansion program, and that the government has secured $2 million from the Alba Bank to assist fishers under the program.
Very senior at fisheries will be specifically and specially assigned to this project to work with the fisher folk to advise the entire ministry on the project and to have stakeholder meetings so that we can have more persons come on board, and instead of going out in the morning on a pirogue and coming back by 12 o'clock, we want persons who can go out and spend a week. A week and a half, 4 days, and when you come in, you bring in a catch that is valued at $60,000, and you and your crew can do whatever you're doing with the monies you make.
And these boats have adequate storage.
Adequate storage. Will be able to carry enough ice. Okay. Would be able to be used as a training tool for persons who want to get into the whole issue of longline fishing, because it's not something that is very popular in the country. Most persons would either throw a line or they will go out and spend, as I said, a maximum of 5 or 6 hours. And then, remember when you were much younger, you would hear the conch shell, and they come out and they say, "We're going to buy some fish outside." Yeah. No, we are moving from that. The conch shell with the fish on the back of the vehicle, driving around, to continue with that, because it's very important that we have food security and we provide for local consumption. But what we're adding to that is that we will be going deep sea fishing, taking yellowfin tuna and others to be processed here and to be exported.
Minister Caesar further noted that with the increase in hotel room stock in the country, there will be more demand for fish. The Food and Agricultural Organization, the FAO, in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor, wrapped up a two-day training workshop today on disaster risk management, DRM systems, and community-based DRM under the theme Building Resilience to Multiple Shocks and Stresses in the response and recovery from COVID-19 impacts in the Caribbean, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The sessions were held at the Methodist Church Hall in Kingstown. The overall goals of the workshop were to develop a comprehensive understanding of disaster risk management DRM systems for agriculture, crops, livestock, fisheries, aquaculture, and forestry, to provide an introduction to the community-based DRM planning and implementation process, identify specific capacity-building themes or training topics related to the 14 globally accepted DRM components, and to understand the linkages and applications of community-based DRM to drone mapping and participatory GIS. FAO Disaster Risk Management Specialist and Emergency Focal Point on the Sub-Regional Office for the Caribbean, Dr. Roberto Sandoval, who served as a facilitator, said that the initiative is vital since the DRM systems analysis gives participants a better understanding of the disaster risk management and how to mitigate complex risk factors.
And through this activity, we are hoping to be able to kickstart the community-based disasters management planning process, plus introduce the core activities related to disaster risk management. Yeah, the response has been good. It's a very interesting composition when it comes to the participants. And we expect or we hope for a fruitful workshop. An initiative like this is important because the DRM systems analysis workshop and training is something that we know and we have proven to effectively facilitate a comprehensive understanding of disaster risk management as a system, okay, as a system that has 14 components or work streams. So after this activity, we expect the participants to have this systematic understanding of disaster risk management. And we know that if you have a system in place, and we know that if you have the systematic understanding, then you will be able to more efficiently and effectively address all of these complex risks and hazards.
The two other facilitators of the training workshop were DRM consultant in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Aria Ledlow Ferdinand, and FAO DRM consultant in St. Vincent, Conroy Huggins. FAO in-country representative Dr. Colleen Phillips said the goal of the workshop is to strengthen disaster risk management systems locally and utilize tools that would aid in this endeavor to assist in community assessment and improve database management with greater accessibility.
This particular activity is funded by two major projects, and they are UN joint project, and we have a global facility that was put in place to support vulnerable areas such as the Caribbean and other SID as it pertains to the recovery from the COVID pandemic. We are working on the development of better disaster risk management systems and tools as we endeavor to do community assessments, embark upon establishing better database management, digitization of data, and accessibility of data, and overall work on the social, economic, and administrative concept as it pertains to pre- and post-disaster management systems. In this particular meeting, which is geared towards training on DRM systems, and in particular the use of a community-based assessment tool,
Dr. Phillips said the participants of the workshop were drawn from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor, Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment, the Ministry of Transport and Works, Ministry of Education, and the SVG Meteorological Office, among other technical staff. Having high blood sugar levels means minor injuries may become a gateway for potential infection. This is according to foot health practitioner Elfrida Joseph Leonti, who was on NBC Radio's Face-to-Face program this morning discussing foot care for diabetics.
And the high blood glucose level damages nerves, and it has a negative effect on your nervous system cells, enzymes. And the damaged nerve may lead to what we call diabetic neuropathy, which is a condition in which the body, you fail to feel in your hands and your feet. This neuropathy occurs in about 70% of persons with diabetes, and its symptoms can result in harmful infections, because when you can't feel your feet and your hands, you will be able to feel when you get a cut, you have a sore, and you have a lot of pain. If you can't feel this irritation and wounds, they may lead to infection, and infection left untreated can lead to gangrene, which in turn requires amputation. And just to reinforce what I just said, I'd like to say that neuropathy is cause of dry skin, which is experienced by many persons. So when the nerve is damaged, you know the skin becomes dry. And the disabled nerves in your feet, they cannot receive the brain's message for them to sweat. And the dry feet will crack, which makes it possible for germs to enter the body. And nerve damage also causes changes to the shape of your feet, which can make previously comfortable shoes hard to walk in. So when the nerves are damaged, if you have a shoe that you're accustomed to wear, it causes the bones to like twist and become out of shape. So comfortable shoes that you previously wore because of the nerve damage can become very uncomfortable.
Highlighting the correct inspection procedure for diabetic patients to follow, Joseph Leonti said it is important that diabetic patients wear proper diabetic-friendly footwear.
For the patient, they need to use a mirror and place it on the floor, and put their foot over it. If they cannot see very well, they'll ask a relative or another family member or friend to check underneath their feet to see if there's any changes in the color, if there are any sores, or if they're dried or cracked skin. And if such is observed, then you refer them to your district nurse, and she will in turn refer that person to me. For the foot health practitioner, when we do inspect your feet, we check for like numbness. We ask the patient if there's any numbness, burning sensation, if there's a feeling of pins and needles, or if they would have had any ulcers previously or currently, and if they have any pain in their calf muscles, that is behind the muscle behind the leg. When you're shopping as a diabetic for a shoe, it's advised that you look for shoes with more depth. So it will look something like a sneaker. Unfortunately, they cannot see my pictures that I would have had to show. But it's a whole shoe where your toes and your ankles are protected. It has more depth in the toe box, good coverage of both top and bottom. It doesn't have any seams on the inside of the shoe. So because there's no seams, it won't be able to rub against the skin. Because the skin is already dry and can easily crack, you don't want the person to get any irritation. So it should not have any seam in that shoe. Likewise, they must look for socks that doesn't have any seam, preferably socks that are padded and made from cotton or other material that controls moisture. So, you know, back in those days, when you give your child a nice, comfortable shoes to wear to school or even to church, somebody would tease them and tell them, oh, your mom give you Sunday school boots. So it's the same Sunday school boots.
They're the best ones.
That's the best one for your feet. It must be very soft and comfortable inside. They call them orthofeet shoe cutaway. That's the name of the shoe.
The foot health practitioner also noted the importance of keeping diabetic patients' feet dry to reduce the risk of infection.
Spaces between the toes, they are very airtight because the toes are very closely knitted together. And when your skin gets moist, it breaks down and it can lead to infection. So it is very important when the person bathes or washes their feet that they remove the excess water by pat drying. I would use the illustration of when a young lady is putting on face powder, how they pat, pat it so gently. That's how we're supposed to treat our feet when we dry them. You pat it softly and you will prevent extra moisture from building up between the toes because you don't want to develop the risk of infection. One of the things that is common is athlete's foot, what we call ground itch.
Yes.
Yes. So you don't want to have that happening. Wearing your shoe when you're heading outside protects your feet, and it makes a lot of sense because not only for outside, but you should wear your shoe inside as well. Because if you have little children in the house that have toys like building blocks, or somebody might be playing around with a thumbtack, or you might have like pieces of glass that may have broken from the kitchen, or splinters, sewing needle, thumbtack. If you're not wearing a shoe inside or a slipper inside of the house, and you get in contact with these different foreign objects, and the person gets stuck, or it may be in the shoe, they can develop, they can get an injury from these objects, and they can develop like a sore, and they might have it because they cannot feel. It will go unrecognized if they don't do the inspections daily like we spoke of before.
The island chain is being used for drug smugglers to stow away supplies, which poses a security threat. This is according to Chief Petty Officer Gordon Charles, attached to the Coast Guard base in Bequia, who was on the Cop Chat program yesterday, discussing challenges of policing in the Grenadines Division.
May not be able to go into certain areas because it's very reefy, and sometimes the water is shallow, but it's easier for drug smugglers to actually go ashore in shallow water and stash away the drugs and so forth. That is one of the challenges that we are facing. While our duties entails protecting, let's say, conservation areas as well, and securing our borders, we have a problem, especially when it comes to the tourist seasons. And that problem, I believe, has to do with lack of awareness in regards to the Powercraft Act or the laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines as it pertains to mariners. For instance, within Bequia, during the tourist season, the place is clustered with yachts, and we have water taxi operators who, this is their livelihood. And sometimes we have a rat race mentality where persons want to go back and forth to transport tourists on the shore, and in so doing, they actually are breaching the Powercraft Act, because within 100 yards, they should not do more than 5 knots. And we find sometimes we have a problem, not just with the locals, but with the yachties. And constantly, we have to be back and forth trying to control personnel, educating them, speaking to them so that they do not actually break the law.
Speaking on other policing challenges in the Grenadines, Sergeant Casey Morris, attached to the Bequia Police Station, said persons who are confronted with issues oftentimes choose to take matters into their own hands. However, that can escalate the problem by doing so, and should instead seek the assistance of the police.
Most of the times, the persons who are the victim, and sometimes it's sad to know that the victims sometimes turn to be the defendants. Kindly, the station is not there for a souvenir, it's there for a reason. They have a problem, kindly come to the police, put your matter before us. We will be more than willing to assist you in whatever that problem is. That is one of the major issues that we have right away in Bequia. The second issue is, and very important, is having persons come forth to give pertinent information to the police with respect to certain crimes. We have a lot of unsolved crimes out there, mainly based because persons are withholding information from police. I don't know if it's a fear within them, or sometimes they tend to believe that once you come to the station and speak to the police, the general public will have you as an informer. And when I say informer, you're not an informer. You are doing yourself a good, and the general public you will help us to help you. So all the persons you want to speak to somebody personally, you come to the station, ask for PC XYZ or Corporal XYZ or Sergeant Morris. You speak to us personally. You have officers there, they can sit and have a conversation with us. We take the notes and we will assure you that you have no need to fear of the public hearing about anything that you have disseminated to us.
Sergeant of Police Carla Tim, who is attached to the Kanawan police station, says it is sometimes difficult to get residents to cooperate with the police in their investigation.
Investigating, you'll have persons saying that, oh, you know what, me and his friends, we have family and we don't want anything to go further. So it doesn't give the time to really explore the investigation as the way that you really wanted to go that way. But at the end of the day, it helps you to curb crime in a sense that it lessens it. We might be a community where everybody is related or work closely. And because of the island of Kanawan is a place where a lot of investors are. Some of my success is that I will meet the persons who are in charge of these investments, and I will have a one-on-one with them, conversate on them, know the do's and don'ts. As being as a police officer, despite you have your priorities at your results and whatever, I'm the police there, so in case of anything, you can contact us and let us know what is happening, and then we'll deal with it on a professional manner and a police perspective with it. And we tend to set a pace in the Kanawan station since I got there over a month ago. Set the pace in Kanawan police station is that we don't take things for granted. We get up and go out there. We do our patrols. We conversate with the yachties are there in the harbor. We conversate with the local fishermen. We conversate with the businesses there and stuff like that. So we know persons are there looking for the police, and they can contact us at any point in time of the day and the night. That we can have a problem, we can go and talk to them or whatever the case is.
The St. Vincent and the Grenadines Coast Guard Summer Program closing ceremony will take place tomorrow at the Coast Guard base in Caliacqua, commencing at 3 p.m. A total of 150 participants are expected to graduate and receive certificates of participation during the ceremony. A news release from the Coast Guard Service says remarks will be delivered by Commissioner of Police Colin John, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security Hudson Ned, Lieutenant Eddie Hamlet, and Petty Officer Damian Franklin, with the featured address to be delivered by Principal of the St. Vincent Grammar School, Colin Sam. The sponsors of the Coast Guard Summer Program are Sagicor Insurance, the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines BOSVG, the St. Vincent Port Authority, and the Taiwanese Embassy. Contestant number 8 in the Miss SVG Pageant 2023, Tara Richardson, sponsored by JCI Limited, will be conducting her GECU Community Service Project on the white economy. Her project will run from September 4th to September 9th under the theme Smile Bright. Each child deserves a bright smile. Richardson, who hails from Barley, said her project will focus on the dental care of students at the primary school level within the community.
Brings the much needed dental awareness to a fraction of persons. This project serves to reduce the possibility of children acquiring a lifetime of dental problems by encouraging early and regular dental checkups. In essence, strong public support is needed to help prevent and allow treatment strategies to be built. To help lessen the harmful effects of dental neglect among young children, my goal for Smile Bright involves including families, promoting healthy eating habits, spreading awareness about the value of good dental practices, and mandating the importance of regular oral health examinations.
Richardson will commence her community service project on September 4th with an introductory session featuring an educational, kid-friendly animated film encouraging children to practice good dental hygiene.
Second day's arts and craft lesson would focus on the value of brushing and flossing, and on day 3, I plan to conduct a visual lesson utilizing Tara Richardson's tutti as a prop to show the students how to properly take care of their teeth, while simultaneously engaging them in an interactive activity. For day 4, a representative of All Smiles Dental Center will give a brief presentation to all parents and teachers, and this will also be our Fruits Day. There will be a Curious George movie session on day 5, which rivets the message of the importance of brushing our teeth, with an interactive session afterwards. Naturally, on the final day, my team and I will be sure to deliver dental hygiene goodie bags with toothbrushes, floss, and pamphlets. This project is geared towards young children because it's crucial to instill good dental habits at an early age when they can be used consistently. By stressing the value of dental care, it will be children's teeth. By stressing the value of dental care, it will be possible to reduce the future cost of medication and any oral health-related expenses. Lastly, children's teeth are highly susceptible to tooth decay. Therefore, we encourage early and regular pediatric dental care, which can help prevent tooth and gum decay. Detecting cavities in young children's teeth is absolutely critical, as a lack of care could lead to even more severe health issues in the future. Dental visits that begin early in a child's life increase our chances of detecting any developing dental problems early on.